Okay, so we've certainly had some horrible ideas over the years.
Many horrible ideas.
I think the worst idea we ever had involved a trampoline.
Certainly.
And it involved water. I should say, though, it was not a water trampoline. It was not meant to be in the water.
It didn't work once it was in the water, certainly.
It was... It took us probably, I don't know how hold on. How long would you say? Maybe an hour, 2 hours?
No, it was more than an hour.
It was less than an hour.
To get it there and back, I think it was more than an hour.
But how many people? There was probably like 8 or 9 people involved. So basically our idea, we were up north, and our idea was to take a normal trampoline and put it in the water, because we had always seen other people who had the actual water trampolines, the one meant for the water. And I think we were jealous of that idea. However, safe to say it was a bit of a disaster.
A lot of it. Yeah, just a bit.
So I have a PhD, so I'm pretty smart, but this is probably one of my worst ideas, to make a water trampoline out of a regular trampoline.
You certainly led the charge on this. You were like, hey, you know what sounds great? I've seen so many great, fun trampolines in lakes, and we should have one. So let's move our trampoline from the ground to level where it is even with the water.
And mind you, it's not just a grass down to the beach kind of thing. You have to go over a break wall that's 2 or 3 feet high. So it was a very difficult endeavor.
A concrete wall, for those who are unaware. Yes. It's just a straight concrete wall.
With rocks at the bottom of it that you have to step on.
Yes.
But once we got the trampoline into the actual water, I don't know what we expected. But basically, every time you jumped, the water would just suck your feet down, and you couldn't get any sort of like traction. Like, you couldn't jump. It would just suck down into the water. I think the trampoline lasted maybe 5 minutes in the water before we took it back out.
Well, I think we took a break and then we took it back out, because I don't think we wanted to just immediately get it in and be like, oh, wow, we were very stupid, and then immediately take it back out. I think we braked for like lunch or something, because it was like we had to have maybe 8 people move that. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people required to move a full-size trampoline down a concrete wall into water.
And do you want to know the best part? I'm pretty sure that I was the mastermind behind this, and I don't remember ever being a part of carrying the trampoline. I feel like I just delegated.
You were the supervisor. You were just delegating work, basically.
I certainly remember helping carry the trampoline.
I do too.
I do not.
I think you must have been directing. You were like, all right, you're good.
I remember probably, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, we all agreed over text that it definitely was maybe one of the only times you've been wrong in your entire life, and you fessed up to it. You were like, no, I was definitely wrong on that one.
Thank you for saying that. This is something I can use later in an argument with my fiance, who claims that I do not fess up when I'm wrong. It just happens so rarely that you don't hear it very often. But when I'm wrong, I admit it. It just almost never happens.
We have it on recording now, so it's solidified.
You heard it here. She fessed up once.
One time in her entire life.
A one-hit wonder.
Hello. Welcome
to
Research, Rank, Repeat. I'm one of your co-hosts, Alyssa, and I don't know what my other co-host, Hannah, was doing right there.
Hannah's had a couple White Claws already, so she's I don't even know. I can't.
My God. Well, it's a great time for Hannah to be downed a couple of White Claws, because we have a special guest today, and she certainly likes drinking White Claws, but also just she fits in with our aesthetic of drinking during the podcast. She's not an alcoholic. I just, good God. What an intro.
Oh God. No, this is exciting though. We have our first guest we've ever had. Well, minus Mom's impromptu
Yes.
showing up and
That doesn't
appearing on the
count though,
podcast.
because it's not planned.
No, but we have our first guest, and one of the first people who test listened, I believe, to our podcast. I'm thinking
Yes.
that's correct.
Certainly.
But yeah, I think it's fitting that we have her on finally, because she's been our biggest supporter, probably the only one who can stand to listen to us week after week and not get fed up. But yeah, so we have our cousin Tara on with us. Woo! This is where it'd be good to have the cheering, the fake applause. Woo!
Champion.
Champion.
Tara, do you want to share as little or as much information as you want to about yourself?
Yes, I would like to. Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Tara Stottle. I have a PhD in history, so whoop, whoop. I'll be bringing some nice historical knowledge at you guys today on the Step Up stuff. But I'm excited to be here. I'm ready and super psyched.
You're basically providing what Alyssa and I cannot provide, which is actual educational, historical knowledge. 'Cause
No.
we just spew nonsense.
Yeah, last episode, Hannah let me have a science minute. So
That's
I got that aspect down. We now have our history,
Mm-hmm.
We got Hannah. her excessive knowledge of television shows.
True.
Is that a compliment or should I be offended?
No, you got a lot of knowledge about television shows. That's
You also
You're-
have the humor. Hannah
yeah, the
has
humor. Yes, yeah, you provide all of the dry humor and sarcasm that this podcast thrives off of.
I'm just here for the laughs and the jokes, basically, is what I'm here for.
Exactly.
But yeah, we thought, so we're doing Step Up, the Step Up franchise. We figured we should bring the person on who introduced us to the Step Up franchise. It was only fitting because the first time we watched it was actually with Tara.
Yes,
Probably
Tara.
up north.
No, it was at their house.
Oh, was it?
I was gonna say, Tara, do you remember when we watched Step Up for the first time? Because I do, but if you want to tell that, you certainly can.
I'm pretty sure. So I grew up playing ice hockey, and every summer we'd have a sleepover thing with the whole team. So I was either in middle school or early high school, no older than 14. Everyone on my girls' travel hockey team came over and slept over at my house. And my cousins, Hannah and Alyssa, were also there for the weekend or the week or whatever to hang out in the summer. So we all were there to sleep over, and there's probably 20 girls in our basement. And someone brought Step Up, or maybe it was my DVD because I was obsessed with it at the time. And yeah, so I remember it was a bunch of preteens and teens watching Step Up for the first time.
Yes, I have a very distinctive memory of either playing Never Have I Ever or something of the sort,
God.
where we were told, Hannah and I were told to close our ears for a conversation that occurred. I certainly did not close my ears, but I pretended to close my ears. Someone also took a picture with toilet paper stuffed in their bra to make their boobs look bigger. I specifically remember that as well.
It was 10 fingers.
Oh, 10 fingers.
Where you put a finger down, which is basically
Well,
Never
it's
Have I Ever.
basically Never Have I Ever, yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially the same thing.
Yeah, that was a good time.
I also remember that the whole toilet paper bra thing, we did a fashion shoot for some girl. We had a fan going.
Yes.
And we did her makeup and hair because she was sending semi nudes to a boy. She was very much
in clothing.
clothed. It was-
Yeah. She was sending suggestive photos to a
Yes,
boy.
yes. It's what we thought were nudes when we were 13, and they
Yes.
were not nude at
Certainly.
all.
Turns out they were not. God. I actually don't remember that. I don't think I was old enough to even know what was happening.
Well, Hannah, you don't remember anything.
That's true. I mean, I have a pretty bad memory, but yeah, I mean, we wanted to bring you on because we were it only makes sense to bring the person who introduced us to this wonderful film franchise. But in addition to being that, you also, I mean, you kind of do it all. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that is very fair.
Yeah, I mean, you're a scholar, you're a doctor.
Technically,
Yeah, and you also have your own business.
it's true. Yeah, so I actually run a writing, tutoring, and editing business called Tara Stottle Tutoring LLC. If if you Google that, you can find my website. It's probably like the 4th or 5th hit down because I don't have a ton of hits on Google, but you will find me. And I have competitive prices and I really love working with people. I do it all online remotely. So wherever you are in the world, if you have a computer and an internet connection, I can work with you on your writing needs of any kind.
But yeah, we'll definitely put the links to your social media and website and everything like that on our Instagram for this week. But yeah, I mean, I think we should step into it.
We should step up to the task at hand.
Alyssa did a better job.
Okay, you know what? It's hard to be this good all the time. It's fine. Okay, so I got a little bit of background on the Step Up franchise. So it was created by Dwayne Adler, who also wrote the screenplay for Save the Last Dance, which was a 2001 film, if you're familiar with it. So the Step Up franchise, it includes 5 films. It also has a spin-off international film and a television series. And it's grossed $650 million worldwide. It began in 2006 with the original Step Up, and I believe the last one was 2014.
It was either 2014 or 2015. I can't remember. I forgot to
2014.
write down all the like specifics that I normally do.
Yeah, so it was 2014. So that's pretty much all I got just on the franchise itself. I mean, I got some on the actual films themselves, but in terms of a franchise, that's all I have. I think one of the things I just wanted to bring up to you guys, because I've noticed it watching, is it's interesting with Step Up because you can tell a lot of the later films, you get the sense that the actors and actresses were more dancers who decided to do film. Because I think some of the acting at times can come off as a bit like cheesy or like not that great, but the dancing always seems to be good. So I think obviously the people who are doing it are more dancers who maybe became actors or dancers who just were looking for something to expand to. Because a lot of these people who are on these movies, like, you know, like Twitch, you see like Jenna Dewan and Channing Tatum, and there's a lot of other Channing Tatum. Sorry.
Wait, Anna, what did you say?
I think I said Channing Tate. What did I say? I don't even know.
You said Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
I gotta write that down.
But you get a lot of these people who have made a career out of being choreographers, out of being dancers. And so I think in addition to having choreographers who are going to be doing all these dances, you get input from the actors themselves and the actresses themselves, which I think probably helps. Okay, we can get into the first Step Up, which was 2006 film, and it was directed by Annie Fletcher, who also directed 27 Dresses and The Proposal. So
nice.
Both solid films.
Solid films. So
the movie received mostly negative reviews, but it actually had a lot of box office success. The budget was $12 million, and worldwide it ended up grossing over $114 million.
I don't know if you looked this up, but isn't it that the Step Up franchise is one of the most like highest franchises like internationally?
Yeah, they had really good international success with
yeah.
the franchise, which I guess makes sense. You know, dance is one of those things that's universal,
right?
That's seen all over the world. So it had a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes,
which I do not understand.
No, because some of the other films had a lot higher, and I was like, I don't know if that's fair. And it was an hour and 43 minutes long. It was PG-13. Normally we do a description. I thought it'd be more fun if I found a review on Rotten Tomatoes that I thought was just like humorous and read that to you.
Okay.
So this was off of Rotten Tomatoes. It says a teen romance with too little plot and not enough dancing. I was like,
Okay.
And Cinema score of A-, Metacritic score of 48 out of 100. What's your like initial thought or reaction to the movie? Because this is a movie we've obviously all of us have seen multiple times, but I haven't seen in a couple years.
Yeah, so I have not, prior to this watching them all together, I had not seen all of the movies. I had only seen a few of them, but the first one I've probably seen at least 5+ times. Or seen parts of it on TV. Like it's one of those movies that if it's on, I'll sit wherever it is and watch the rest of it. So my first thought was just like me being excited and remembering how good the soundtrack is. Like the soundtrack of like the first couple movies in general, but the soundtrack is great. It's a really good collection of music. That and that intro song I had as my ringtone, my wake up ringtone for a very long time. So I like got like flashbacks where I'm wide awake and I'm like, oh my God, I have to wake up.
That's funny.
My first impression was, oh my God, the mid 2000s fashion. And I was like, I wore some of that and I'm so ashamed.
Yes. For sure. Like I definitely noticed that. It's funny because even I think it was I want to say it was the fourth film. It was probably like early 2010s. I was like, oh, these outfits, like I definitely remember this being in fashion. I think it's interesting though, like this film, there's a lot of like contrasting elements and a lot of contrasting scenes. Like at the beginning, they do sort of the shots where they're showing, the dance school. What's this? I don't even know what the school's called. It's
like the
Maryland School of the Arts.
Yeah.
And kind of contrasting that with where like Tyler's at and showing these different.
It's like showcasing different types of dance, different backgrounds, different like economic differences between juxtaposition between the two.
Yeah. I probably haven't watched this movie in a couple of years, but I think when we do these podcasts, like I pay a lot more attention because I'm trying to pick up on these details and stuff I haven't noticed before. But there were a couple scenes that I kind of thought of as throwaway scenes. And I listened to them and I actually like really listened to them. And I think there's some scenes that are actually really interesting at showing sort of that conflict between like how far apart and how different these two worlds are. And like with Tyler coming to this school and like there's a scene where he's talking with the principal and you can just tell that they're so far apart.
Can I bring some historical
Critique
and commentary?
Certainly.
Okay,
Certainly.
So this takes place in Baltimore, Maryland, and it came out in 2006. So we can assume it's like based in 2005, 2006, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dealing with a genre, hip hop dancing and hip hop music that is primarily Black American music. It's a genre that was created by Black Americans. And Baltimore in 2006 had a population of 67% Black, 21% white. It's a little bit, now in 2021, it's like 62% Black, 30% white or something. This centers white characters, as we will see a theme throughout the movies. But I feel like that was a missed opportunity if you're going to deal with something that should be more typical of like trying to show the culture or show the movement, why not, if you're going to use a form of dance and music that is traditionally Black and in a city that is more Black than it is white, it's majority Black, why wouldn't you have more Black characters? Or like, I get that there are like Black supporting characters, but I also see that as kind of like problematic where it's like the white people and they're propped up by Black people, which kind of is like a microcosm for America. It's like we couldn't have like white mainstream anything without Black people building up everything else that white people get privileges from. So I see like I had a critique about, I was like, I just wish they had done this, at least had like one Black or even like Latinx character as one of the main leads, as the male or female lead, because I just felt like I had a hard time feeling bad for Tyler. I know that class is a real thing and that you can still be white and of a lower class and working class and still have your own struggles. But there's a whole other element that race adds there, especially we've seen now. I think most of America now recognizes that racism is a very serious problem in the country. And I just wish that there was like, I just felt like they could have done so much with this franchise had they acknowledged racism and shown that through like the struggles of a Black artist and dancer and moving into this realm that would be really difficult. I see it's difficult for Tyler, but I feel like it would have been way more difficult for a Black man coming from the same neighborhood. I feel like they could have shown so much more, but maybe it was just like it was more comfortable for the director or producer or whoever was in charge of this. I don't know.
I certainly noticed that as I was watching that, like the two like leads are always white.
Yeah.
Well, like heterosexual white, like man and woman, dancing, and that's like the romance plot is between them two. And I did certainly notice that upon like watching them all in a row, that I thought that was interesting.
I feel like that's pretty accurate to a lot of 2000s to mid 2010s TV and movies. Like when you got characters that weren't the typical like white heterosexual characters, they were never the lead characters for the most part. They were the background characters. Like Tara said, they were basically there to prop up the main characters. And I agree with you. I think they missed an opportunity to use hip hop, which you're saying is, predominantly entwined in like that culture of like Black culture.
Mhm.
Every single movie, right? The two main leads, female and male, were white, correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So you do get, diversity within the background cast, but that seems to be what mid 2000s movies were all about. I mean, we did Pixar, and we didn't
Right.
see a Black protagonist until Soul,
Soul.
which
Right,
came
which-
out last year or 2 years.
Right.
Within the last year.
December of last year.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you had a couple. I mean, you had Frozone and
but
Incredibles.
he was
who was
a
a background character.
Side character.
But it's very like that was kind of what that time frame was. You didn't see it, and it's such a shame because I don't know. I just wish we could have grown up with seeing a lot more diversity than we did.
Well said, Hannah.
Thank you. Do you guys have any more thoughts about this movie in general, and which is the first step up?
I always I don't know why Skinny's death is always so impactful, but it just is. Like I always get so sad and like tear up, and it's just, I think it's just sad, It's like I wish
Yeah.
he didn't have to die, but like I understand for the, the plot of the movie, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that every time I watch it when Skinny dies, it's just like I feel like I have to look away or walk out of the room because I'm like, I know it's coming and I just don't want to see it. I did have another couple of notes I wrote down in general.
Okay.
So when Tyler first gets to MSA and he's like doing his janitor thing, maybe it's just because I'm older now, but I looked at it, I was like, Tyler looks like a creepy old man. Like he looks way older than a high schooler. And he's just creeping, stalking these kids in their dance class. Like it's very obvious. And just like staring Nora up and looking her up and down. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you can't do that. That's so gross and creepy.
Again, I think it's a product of the time because
Yeah.
certainly like we watched Miss Congeniality more recently, and it's like I never realized how much like sexual harassment in the workplace there is in that movie. There are so many things, and I still love the movie, but there are so many things that like would not fly today. Like if a movie released with that, like it would not be okay just because things have changed, views in society have changed. So like certainly, yeah, I was like, okay, this is it's a product of its time kind of deal, I think.
It's something too you see throughout the franchise, like these male leads who are or not even necessarily the male leads, but some of the side characters are very like almost predatory, and it's very much glossed over, and it's used almost sometimes as humor, which I think you're right. I think the 2000s, if you watch, I mean, a lot of the shows, we were talking about this the other day, Alyssa, a lot of the shows from the 2000s like wouldn't fly now. Because you get a lot of like jokes and like they just kind of gloss over it. And I think people are just tired of watching these shows kind of make like a mockery out of it when it's something that's very real and something that a lot of people have personal experience with. You don't want to sit and watch a TV show that's supposed to sort of take you out of reality and have to watch stuff like that. So I think it's interesting to see. I definitely think though, like you said, it's probably just a product of the times, but I mean, watching Step Up through a 2021 lens, it changes your opinion about things. A lot of these shows and movies you're going to watch, it changes your opinion about them for sure.
Another note that I wrote down while watching the first one was no one at MSA goes to class. Like they're always like milling about in the hallways. I'm like, what do they have, like 20, 30 minutes between each class? And I didn't see a single teacher. I saw the director, but I saw no teachers, and everyone just has their own studio time. I'm like, what kind of school? Like, I get it's a like fine art school, but this seems unbelievable. Or like they're all self-taught.
Right, because we got like what 5 or 6 minutes between classes. You basically had enough time to either go to the bathroom or go to your locker and grab different books or whatever and get to class. And you watch all these like shows and movies, and they're just like in the hallways for like 20 minutes at a time. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, Certainly, I think they kind of glossed over the school element. I guess it's also fair because the movie is primarily told through the lens of Tyler, and he is not attending the school. Like,
That's
he's
true.
not going to classes. He's like doing community service. So I guess that in a way that makes sense because we're only seeing what he sees, and he's not like in the classes kind of deal.
Yeah, that's true. Do you have any more thoughts before we get into some like favorite moments, dance sequences, all that?
Can we just talk about how just Mario's in this movie casually?
I know. I always forget he's in this, and then he pops up, and I'm like, oh, it's Mario.
And I'm like, hey, it's Mario.
Mario.
That's my comment.
Okay.
Just the fact that Mario's in this movie.
All right. Do you have like a favorite character in this movie?
Yeah, I picked Tyler. I like his like development through the movie, and just I thought about picking Nora, but I don't know, just like he's just interesting, and I just like seeing his like journey throughout the movie to get to the point where he's like being admitted to like this school kind of deal. Like it's just kind of like a full circle stuff going on there.
That's fair. Tara, do you have a favorite?
My favorite character was Nora, and what really made me want to choose her is, so basically she has this routine that she's come up with for her senior showcase with this guy. Forget the skinny boy's name.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Her-
let's call him
yeah,
Skinny
her-
Boy.
Yeah.
Tight
But the guy
skin.
gets hurt, right? And so
Yeah.
she's like, oh, shoot. So she had this whole thing set up with him. She's like, all right, I got to think on my feet and I have to create a new one because I really want to get into this dance company. So I have to kill it at the senior showcase. So she's like, all right, I'm going to try to find a new partner to like work with. And so then she meets Tyler, and then she ends up changing it all because she's like, oh, I can learn from you. I'm not going to just be like rigid. I can adapt and stuff. And I can acknowledge that there's good things that you can teach me. So I see her growing in that way. But then when Tyler just dips because he's just being a douche, Nora's like, okay, screw you. Guess what? I'm a strong, independent woman. And well, at first she gets like down. She's like, I can't do it. But then her mom was like, no, Nora, you love dancing. You will do this. So she's like, I will do this. And then she creates her own one, like a solo, and she like was going to kill that. Like you could see those like scenes near the end where she's practicing all the time, like that montage, whatever. And so I felt like she was really resilient and she knew what she wanted, and she didn't let a man like determine that. Like she still decided to let Tyler in at the end, but like she was prepared to do it whether it was solo or with him. She was like, whatever happens, I'm gonna do it. So I really appreciated her independence and resilience.
Yeah, I actually went with like a relationship between Nora and her mom, because I think it's such an interesting dynamic the whole movie that you sense you don't sense, you get basically told that her mom isn't necessarily supportive of her like dance dreams. And you know her dad, I think her dad's dead, is that true?
Yeah, her dad isn't around, or he's
Yeah, he's
passed.
not
I'm
around.
not sure. One or the
I
other.
think he
He's,
died.
he's not in the picture.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he
currently.
died. If he's not, well, I just made up that storyline, it's fine. But it's interesting to see throughout the movie how her mom kind of changes. Like Tara said at the end, she's sort of like supporting her and telling her like that she can do it. In the beginning, she wasn't necessarily that supportive, but it's always interesting to me when you get these characters whose parents don't necessarily approve of what they're doing and aren't supportive of like their goals and dreams, and how they sort of, I don't know, how they sort of navigate that. Like it's an interesting dynamic. So I really like that. I think I don't know. Did you do like a favorite line or favorite scene or anything like that?
I just did a combined category as favorite line / scene. So I love when they go to that club and like Mario's performing, you know, and the one Lucy's like singing, and it's just like a fun like dance routine. And I just like always have really liked that. And I just like, that's just a scene that I think is like fun. And like, I've always liked that dynamic with that there. So I didn't pick a line. I just picked a scene.
Okay. Tara, did you have any of that or?
Yeah. So my favorite scene was a comedic one, and it's when Andrew is the partner that got injured.
Oh, Andrew. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So he comes back like randomly,
Yes.
and he's like, look at me, tiptoe, tiptoe. He's doing his little like pitter patter on his feet, and then he's starting to do his moves, and he's like so stiff. It's hilarious. It looks so uncomfortable.
He's
I was just like, oh my god. He has little arm quick like thing.
And his
I was
little-
like, oh
yeah,
god.
his little-
Yeah, it was just hilarious. Then he like immediately falls because he just can't handle it. That was my
Yeah.
favorite scene. And then my favorite line kind of goes back to your favorite scene, Alyssa, with like the dance, whatever, they're at that club, because that's when Lucy realizes that her boyfriend's cheating on her and like with every other girl. And so like the next day, I forget Mario's character's name, but he's talking to Lucy and he's like, she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't tell anyone I like you saw that. And he's like, you shouldn't even be embarrassed. He's like, if you want to be with someone who doesn't appreciate what a good thing he's got, that's 100% your business. I just thought you'd be smart enough to know you deserve better. And I was just hoping he would break out into let me love you. Oh, that would have been the perfect spot, but he didn't.
Give you everything you want and need. Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, I do always like that because I'm like, it's perfect. It's just his song.
Yeah. So my favorite line and scene actually come at the same moment. So it's basically after Skinny dies, Tyler and Mac are at I think they're at a basketball court, and Mac's kind of like, he gets upset with Tyler because he's like, you really think this is the best that we can do, or like we're doing our best that we can? And I just think it's like it's a nice, not nice, that sounds bad because Skinny just died, but it's sort of that moment where Tyler realizes like he wants more for his life than what he's been doing. Like he's been messing around for so long and he finally wants, like, there's something he's finally like serious about and wants to commit to. I don't know. I just think that's like a nice moment between the two friends. Okay, so what's your favorite dance sequence? Do you have one?
For me, it's the senior the senior showcase performance. I've gone back and I've just watched that on YouTube before, like just that end scene. I just like the music is so well done. I love the fact that it calls back to the beginning because you get like the orchestration, but it like is blended really well. And I just like the combination of them together, but they both get their own separate moments to shine, and then together they get moments. So I just really liked the choreography of that dance itself.
My favorite dance sequence was a tie between the first scene. I love that opening sequence where it's the contrast where they juxtapose the dancers at MSA versus the people out like in a parking garage or something where they're doing their dances. I love that. And I also love the Petey Pablo song that they're dancing to. But I also really love the scene with Nora and Tyler at the docks where she brings him to like the shipyard where her father used to bring her, and they're doing that really cool sunset thing. And it's like a pairing, but it's on a round. So it's like, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I'm with Alyssa. I think the final sequence, specifically, there's a part like probably a minute or a minute and a half in where the music shifts and it's just Nora and Tyler dancing together. I love that part. But yeah, I mean, I think the first one to me is like, it's hard for me to judge it because that's the one I've seen the most. I think the Step Up 2 I've seen, like I had seen part of it. Besides that, I hadn't seen any of the other movies before this. But we can move into Step Up 2. It came out in 2008. It was rated PG-13 and it was an hour and 38 minutes. It had a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb and a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it was directed by John M. Chu, who was the director of Crazy Rich Asians. And it grossed $150.8 million worldwide. And the quote I got about it was from Dustin Putman off of Rotten Tomatoes. It says, competent and too innocent in its own way to strangely dislike, but there also isn't much to push it above mediocrity. There's more substance in cotton candy.
That's quite the review.
It's like, well. So this movie starts out with a flash mob sequence, which flash mob sequences become really common in Step Up franchises, we learn.
They also, I think, started to become big around that time, like on YouTube. Remember there was like what was the like No Nonsense Everywhere, something like the food court musical.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The like flash mobs like became a really big thing at some point in the 2000s for a bit there.
The first thing I noticed though, that I was like, is this the douchebag boyfriend from She's the Man?
Yep.
The main guy was the boyfriend from She's the Man, the douche dude.
I forgot the shitty boyfriend from She's the Man is a main character.
Right. I was like, what?
Also, what's with like police hating dancing in a general sense? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
in this movie, it's the start of it, but in several movies, you've got the police like chasing dancers. I don't know, like disturbing the peace. Like, I don't know I'm like, what's the problem here? Like, what's wrong with dancing on a subway train?
I think it's probably disturbing the peace. I don't know.
The only thing that I think that they even do that's remotely illegal is the graffiti at the end
Yeah.
because you're defacing public property. But
Right.
the dancing itself, I don't think there are laws about where you can put your feet on the subway. I don't like, you
Right.
know, like on the ceiling. I don't think there's laws about that. There might be,
Right.
but it kind of just seems like they needed an antagonist, and the police are like an obvious choice for
Right.
like for most, you know, most
Right.
situations.
I just was curious. I'm like, is that actually a thing? Because it becomes a recurring thing. You
Yeah.
continue to see police or security chasing down dancers for dancing in public areas. So I just was like, I don't know if this is like a real thing or if they just kind of had this for the movies themselves.
Well, in the third movie, they dance like on people's cars, so I could see
Mhm.
that being a problem. They also like
Yeah.
break into places where they're not supposed to, like they're not invited to that party or something. But otherwise, they're really
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? There are really weird laws out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could just be like random city or state laws that
Okay.
are actually real.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because as I watched all these movies, I realized that a lot of these movies are the same plot or story as the first movie with like gender roles reversed or a little bit different setting, but in a general sense, a lot of these plots are kind of the same conflict. Like, you know what's going to happen. There's always a best friend who's, you know, supportive at the beginning and then gets disappointed about something and then they come together at the end. Like it follows this sort of pattern. So
Yeah.
it becomes predictable.
Certainly.
I would say though, I think overall, I don't necessarily know if I like this story as much, but I do think the dance sequences might have been a little bit better, like more clean cut.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because 2 starts the trend of this like dance crew idea because the
Mhm.
first movie didn't have that aspect, but every other movie has this like dance crew doing something, and the plot of what they're actually doing, you know, differs between movie to movie, but there's always this like core like dance crew, and then there's always the same type of conflict, and they always like win in the end in every movie. They don't lose, which I was like, I was surprised that they never lost. It had to happen at some point, and it just never did. I kept waiting
Right.
for it and waiting for it, and then it was like, nope, everybody wins. Everybody gets what they want. I like that. Oh, what did you call him? Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
I like that he came back for a little cameo.
I mean, what did you think about Andy and like, because she lives with her mom's friend, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, her mom's friend.
Right. What did you think about like her character in general?
I thought her character was interesting, but I don't think she was super compelling as a lead, I guess is the way I'd phrase that. I wish like there would have been more because I just like I felt like she was too subdued in ways
Mhm.
where like I wanted more out of that role that I didn't get. In a general sense, though, I did like her, but I just wish I could have gotten more, I guess, because really Moose steals the show. To be honest,
Yeah.
and he's not a main character, like one of the leads. So
I think Andy, the problem with Andy is that she's very apathetic, and that kind of makes her seem two-dimensional to us because she's like not letting in the outside characters because she's really like guarded herself. So us as the audience, we also are not let in. So she becomes very flat to us. So I
Yeah.
think that's part of the issue that I think they could have opened her up a little bit more. She kind of opens up when she's with Chase, but like I still feel like she's very guarded, which makes her more two-dimensional to us because we just can't see as much what's underlying.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting. We'll talk about it when we get to the final movie.
Mhm.
She comes back.
right.
It's interesting because I think they do a lot better job in the final movie of actually allowing us to see some of her past, which makes us as an audience kind of gravitate towards her more.
I will say I liked her more in the
Yeah.
last movie than I did this one.
No,
Yep.
100% agree. And I think it's interesting. I think in this movie, though, alone, it doesn't do enough to, especially if you're going to be a lead, you have to have some sort of, you have to have a reason for us to want to like root for you or to feel for you. And I don't think they do that enough. It's hard with Chase because, no offense, he's like a privileged white boy. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to feel sympathy for him. His older brother, I mean, he's a douchebag. And I think when he was watching the final scene, the older brother of the girls dancing the rain, I'm pretty sure he got a boner at one point because he was like, his face
I thought
was
that
like,
too.
he was like, oh. It's like,
I
Yeah.
hated him with a passion. He was
Gross.
so like boring and like I don't know how to put it. He was supposed to be this like stern director, but he came across as like really whiny and like not authoritative. And I just like I did not like his character.
yeah,
But my God.
it's interesting. And we also get introduced to Moose, who
Ugh.
becomes like a main character later on. In this movie, to me, he's like, it's hard not to like him because
Yeah,
he's just so
he's-
charming.
He's very
kind of like
endearing.
yeah, and he's kind of like that awkward like teen at the beginning who you can't dislike him. I don't feel like. It's interesting because I didn't know that he was necessarily going to become like a central figure later on, but I think he's in the last 3 movies.
He's
in some
in
context.
He's in 2 through 5. He makes
Right.
an appearance in 2 through 5 in some capacity.
and he's like a main character in the next movie, basically.
Yeah,
He
he's
becomes a main
not
character.
he's not the lead according to the cover of the movie, which shows the 2 white leads and not him, even though you could kind of say he's one of the leads. And like clearly you can tell he was a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And I can see why, because like, yeah, I agree. He's like comes across as very like endearing and it's hard not to like him.
Yeah, that's true.
Did either of you notice when we first get introduced or soon after we get introduced to Moose, he does that little dance on the stairs? Did you notice what song was playing?
Oh
My favorite song from the
Yes.
like 2000s that I was obsessed with.
Shoot, it was The Way You Are, right?
Yep, by
The Way I
Timberland.
Are, The
was
Way
like,
I Are.
Oh, the way I are. Oh my god.
Because you had it
Oh,
as
yeah.
your phone ringtone for a long time.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Man.
good.
I think the second movie has the best soundtrack out
was
of all
gonna
the
say,
movies.
Yeah.
The first 3 movies specifically, I think are all really good, but the second one I think is the best.
I would agree with that.
The best
That's-
music use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree.
Do you guys have any more thoughts before we get into favorites?
What kind of dance club just has like a trampoline in the floor?
I don't know.
I thought the dance was interesting. I just was like, does this exist in real life? Like, am I gonna go to a club where I'll just
There'll
they'll
be a
pull out a
trampoline.
floorboard and there'll
Oh
just
my
be
God.
a little trampoline kind of deal going on?
Yeah.
This is kind of also like with a line, but when he's leaving the salsa dance, he's like talking to like the mom or the aunt. He's like, "I'll add you on MySpace," and I was like, "Oh my God, so dated."
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus Christ, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I love it so much.
For sure. That's amazing.
One thing I noticed and I wrote down is that guys keep taking their shirts off unnecessarily. I was like, okay, like you're literally alone and it's not that hot. You have a fan going, you have a t-shirt on, you don't need to
Yeah.
take it off. And then like you're still in your jeans doing I was like, this is weird.
Again, I feel like a very common 2000s like trope. Like for some reason they just love to have men take their shirts off. But yeah, I was like, I don't need to see this. We're over it.
Also, it's another like lead. I feel like Chase looks too old. Like he does not look like a high schooler.
Mm-mm.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times the female leads look like the age they're supposed to look like,
Or yeah, relatively closer
or
to
around
that.
what they're supposed
Yeah.
to look like, and then you get these men who look like they're like 10 years older. It's
Which
like-
I mean, they were. I think Channing Tatum was in his late 20s when
probably
when he
yeah.
did step up. So
Yeah, he was
it's
like
interesting.
26.
yeah.
It's interesting to see that. But yeah, so I think my favorite character for this movie was probably Moose.
I agree. I put Moose.
Yeah, I just think he was so, it's hard not to like him. He's kind of like, you have to root for him because he's kind of like the weird awkward kid who like you can't hate. You know what I mean? It's hard not to hate him. And I think he just, the way he kind of like, when Andy came to the school, you know, she was new, she didn't know anyone, he kind of included her and brought her in. I just think he's interesting. I don't think Andy was a compelling enough, I don't think either of these leads were that compelling, to be
Mhm.
honest.
No.
It's kind of a bad thing, I think, for your movie when the side characters to me are more interesting than the main characters. I think that's probably an issue with writing, but I think that the side characters like outshone the main cast in this one.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the one guy is the guy from Glee as well.
Oh, Harry Shum, I think his name is.
Cable. What I just wrote down his name was Cable, but I'm like, oh, that guy looks familiar. And then I was
He
like,
appears
oh, he's from
too
Glee.
in the next, maybe the next one or the last one. He comes back at some point.
He's in the next one, the third one as
Yeah.
well.
Well, who's your
other-
favorite character, Tara?
My favorite character is Missy, and that was Andy's friend from her other crew.
Yes.
Who ends up coming back to their crew, and she invites the whole for her barbecue at her parents' house. I just felt like she was super loyal. Like she's first of all like really funny and like nice and kind of bubbly, but she was super loyal to Andy. And she was like, you know what, the crew that they were in was started like treating people really mean. And she's like, I don't want to be a part of that. So she comes back and she's like, Andy, I'll be on your crew, and like invites literally the day she joins the MSA crew, she invites everyone to her house for the barbecue, and she's super friendly and like I just appreciated her loyalty and her like willingness to stick up for her friends and what she felt was right.
Yeah.
I agree that I think she's probably one of the like best side characters in the franchise. I really liked her as well,
Yeah,
and like
I would
her
agree.
character. Yeah.
I think for favorite line, there was, I don't even remember where it was from, but there was a line where the DJ, he's like, that's not how we do it. This ain't High School Musical.
Yes. I loved that line. I wrote
Gotta
that down
love
as
that.
well.
Gotta love that 2000 shout out. Favorite scene though, I went with the Tyler and Andy like dance battle at the club. Like the trampoline part was a little bit ridiculous, but I actually really liked that interaction between the two of them, both kind of coming from the same home and everything like that, and understanding each other. I like that moment.
For line, I also wrote, I had the High School Musical line because I thought that was really funny. But for scene, I picked the like when they go to her family's party. I really liked the dynamics, seeing the dynamics like with her family, and then also like they were doing like salsa dancing, and it was just like a lot of fun. It was just like a fun scene to watch.
Yeah.
My favorite line was when Andy's trying out at like the auditorium at the beginning, and the director, he stops her and he's like, "You're just a street dancer." Like, who
Street
says
rat.
that? Like, it's like a street rat. I was like, "You're just a street dancer." I was like, what kind of insult is that? Corey and I just kept laughing. My fiance and I were watching it together, and we were just dying laughing. We rewound it because we're like, this is so funny. But my favorite scene, I think, was the prank that the MSA crew did on Tuck and his crew with like the fish. It reminded me of the episode in The Office where Dwight like invites the Michael Scott Paper Company to lunch, and then he secretly like hides a fish like in their vent or something. And I was like, classic
Yeah.
prank.
Definitely. I think my favorite dance sequence was the end scene with the rain, specifically with the rain, when the rain came in. There's something about dance sequences in the rain that's just like so much more, I don't know what it is. It's so much more appealing, and like they just all look good. Like if we're being honest, they look good.
I also, my favorite dance was the dance in the rain. And honestly, that might be the best dance of the franchise, to be honest. Like, I don't know what it is about rain that's so interesting, but like the dynamics and like the song choices and like the camera work and choreography, like all worked really well together in that scene. I was very entertained.
Yeah, I also picked that last scene in the rain. So my fiance and I watched all 5 of the step ups together, and my soon-to-be stepson was watching most of them with us. He didn't watch the second one with us because we didn't have him that day, but he was like, "Oh, you watched it without me?" So like, okay, we're like, really the only thing you missed was the last scene, so we played it for him. He was like, yeah, and he starts doing like spins and kicks and stuff. He's like, "Oh yeah." He was doing it. So I think he also chose that as his favorite scene.
Yeah, it was good.
Good to know.
Okay, let's get into Step Up 3. So this one was released in 2010. It was PG-13, and it was 1 hour and 46 minutes. So this one actually came out in 3D, which...
And you can tell it was
Yeah.
filmed in 3D.
It was
You can
interesting to
tell.
watch it on... We just rented it off of YouTube, not watching it in 3D. You could tell where the moments where it was supposed to be 3D. That was interesting.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it. I have some thoughts.
Okay, so it had 15.8 million in its opening weekend in the box office, which was actually the worst, but it went on to become the best in the box office of the whole franchise with 159 million worldwide. So it was Rotten Tomatoes. It had a 47%, a 45 out of 100 on Metacritic, and a cinema score of B+. And the review I got said it may not contain believable acting or a memorable plot, but Step Up 3D delivers solid choreography and stunning visuals.
So, can we talk about how this movie has a higher Rotten Tomatoes score than the first one?
Yeah.
Even I think
What?
even the fourth one, which
Yeah.
we'll get to that, but
Oh
that
my
one had a
God.
41%, which is like
So-
20% higher.
So my first thoughts, and in a general sense, so there's a way you can do movies in 3D that still work. For instance, like Avatar. Hannah and I never saw it in 3D. We only saw it in 2D, and it was still a movie that you could comprehend and watch. But this movie, I had some hard times with some of the dance sequences because I felt like the camera angles were really jarring and really like didn't work well, where I was like not able to follow things well. And certain scenes, like you could just like tell that like a certain effect was like it was supposed to be 3D. Like there's a part in the beginning where Moose is like popping bubbles, and I'm like, okay, these bubbles were all supposed to be in 3D because the camera angle was super weird. And there's a scene where this is maybe the worst scene I've ever seen in a movie. I'm not even
Any
joking. The two leads stand on an air vent and put Slurpee juice in the air, and it's like one of the most, I can't even describe how horrible of a scene this was. The only point was for the 3D effect. Nobody would take a Slurpee and just blow Slurpee juice in the air. It would never happen in real life. Nobody does this shit. I was so like thrown off. It was unbelievable.
Did you notice the guy in the background, the extra, who was like watching the whole thing go down, and then as soon as he started to kiss, he did the awkward like, oh, I'll look around like I see something, but it was so bad. It was probably one of the worst CGI things I've ever seen in my life. It was so bad.
It was phenomenally terrible. Like I can't even describe how bad it was. It was so bad.
The whole scene made me want to throw up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I had to kind of like remind myself that, you know, some of this stuff was meant for 3D. I kind of pushed that aside. I don't know why, but when the first shot came up of like the guy filming, it looked like Caleb from Pretty Little Liars. And I was like, what is happening? And I was like, is this Caleb? But I didn't understand how Moose and like Allison Stoner knew each other just because of school. I assume they went to school together.
So the lore I got from watching it is that they met freshman year at the Maryland Dance Academy.
Also, was she the sister in my Super Short Show?
Yes,
On Disney Channel?
She
Okay.
certainly was the sister.
Yeah.
I guess.
I just want to say, like, Luke, who's the main guy, he's super creepy.
I
He
hate him.
videotapes like all these people in
Terrible.
this club. He's following this. I think her name's Natalie.
Yeah,
I think
Natalie.
so.
He's following Natalie around the club. Also, like, they have no chemistry, the two of
Oh wait,
them.
her name's Emily.
No, it's Natalie.
No,
I
it's
wrote
Natalie.
Natalie.
Why did
Emily's
they put
the
Emily?
next movie.
Who's Emily?
She's
I
in the
wrote
next
Natalie.
movie.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
Emily is Step Up 4. That's Emily Anderson.
Okay, well,
She's the okay.
Either way, they're so forgettable that I couldn't remember who was who.
Yeah.
My one comment just says Luke kind of sucks, and that's Also, can we talk about how Moose just casually gets into his car immediately after meeting him? Like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't just get into some strange man's car the minute you meet him in New York City. I was like, what are you doing?
This plot was super jumpy. Like, it was all over the place. I was so lost at times, and the camera angles were really weird at some point.
It's because of the 3D. Yeah, the dance choreography I don't think was bad, but the camera movements and like the angles were so not like good for like a 2D dance sequence. They just like weren't flattering. And like I can't even say that this movie would be better if it wouldn't have been 3D, because I don't think it would have been, but it just like so many things didn't work. Is I guess what I would say. Like the two, like I don't understand why they didn't make Moose like the lead, because like technically the two Natalie and Luke are the leads, right? And like Moose is certainly like one of the leads, but he's not like the two main leads. And I'm like, why wouldn't you have just made him that? Just make him and Camille like the main story. I feel like that would have been more interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that like didn't make sense to me in this movie.
Another thing that doesn't make sense. Okay, so that first dance battle that they have, or one of the first ones that his crew has, is at the same time he has like a chemistry test, and it's at 8 o'clock, and it looked like it was light out, so it's not 8 p.m. Who has a dance battle at 8 a.m.? But that's such a weird time for a dance battle. I was like, this doesn't seem realistic. Like, people have day jobs, or they're in school, or like doing other, or like if they don't, maybe they're still sleeping. But who does a dance? Who's coming? What fans are you getting to come at 8 a.m.?
Mhm.
I don't know.
That didn't make sense.
There's so many things that like didn't make sense to me. To be
The
honest.
the A and B plot really didn't work well in this movie.
No,
Like, it was
No.
so,
not at all. So disjointed.
Yes.
and I
disjointed.
wanted Camille to be able to dance more, because I
Yes.
know Allison
Mhm.
Stoner, like, she does a lot of dance stuff. She has a YouTube channel. She does a lot of like choreography, and the entire franchise, when she's in it, she's kind of just used as like a love interest when she
Yeah.
gets older.
Yeah.
Even like towards the end, like, she's only in the dance sequences right at the end. So I was kind of
Mhm.
disappointed that she didn't get more. There was like an Olsen twins comment.
Yes.
Which, like,
yes.
for people who don't know, we call ourselves Mary Kate and Ashley. We firmly believe that Kate is a long lost triplet of Mary and Ashley.
And not Elizabeth Olsen. She is separate. She's a fourth
Right.
sister.
So
She's
there's
her own
4
entity.
sisters.
Yeah, there's 4 sisters, not 3.
So when I heard that, I was thrilled, because I love
Yes.
that. But yeah, this whole movie was just very, very chaotic.
Going off the Mary Kate and Ashley point, so I really thought that the final battle was going to line up with the Halloween dance. And I wrote down, as soon as we heard about the Halloween dance, I said, if Moose doesn't arrive to the World Jam dressed as an Olsen twin, this whole movie was a waste of time.
Right?
So
Yeah.
my conclusion is that the movie was a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I was waiting to see him dressed up as who it was going to be Ashley Olsen, I think. I don't
think he's
remember
gonna
which
be
one he
Ashley,
said.
yeah.
I don't remember which one he said he was going to be, but I was waiting for it. I was like, this is going to happen.
Going
it
off of
didn't.
that, I don't like that trope that like someone is such a shitty friend the entire movie, and then instantly they have like a conversation and they're forgiven. I understand that people get busy, but like, if you're gonna be a friend to someone, like, be a friend, and don't expect them to just immediately like forgive you for being a shitty person the entire movie. Because Moose, honestly, he was a horrible friend the whole movie, like,
Yep.
to Camille.
Yeah,
Kind
certainly.
of just like left her, and then like instantly they do like their dance sequence, which I really actually like that dance sequence.
Yeah, that's my favorite dance in the movie, is that
Okay.
dance sequence.
Yeah, I also put that as my favorite dance, but I just don't like that trope that like people would immediately just be like, oh, okay, like, it's cool. You were shitty the whole time. It's fine. But like, I don't know. That bothered me a little bit.
One redeeming factor I saw in the movie was the plot twist where Natalie's a spy. I actually did not see it coming, and I wrote, nice plot twist. Natalie's a spy. Improved this movie's plot significantly.
Yeah.
See, at a certain point, I assumed that was either like choreography, like practice leaked. I was like, oh, it's her. She did it. But I didn't know that that guy would be her brother. But it was that was interesting, you know.
It definitely surprised me. Like, it caught me off guard a little bit. I just think though, like, the main issue was like the writing felt really lazy. And I don't know that the dance sequences, all of them, were as good as the like second movie, I would say. There were a couple that I enjoyed, but I don't know. I just, like, overall, I thought like it was just okay, basically.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. That's how I would put it.
Who is your favorite? Let's do character.
My favorite character was Moose. I just think, like, even though he's a shitty friend, I saw his growth. I think we didn't have enough time. Like, I think his growth was a little contrived because it's only an hour or something movie. Because he kind of went like 0 to 60 and was like, oh, I'm a good friend now. But I think he at least learned a lesson. And he has cool dance moves, and he's funny and like quirky and awkward, but really smart. And he also then decides that he's not just going to go with engineering or whatever his major was. He's like, I'm a double major with dance. So I like seeing that growth and that like coming of age moment, which is very characteristic of a college experience.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also picked Moose as well. I thought about either him or Camille because I didn't care about either of the two leads at all in any way, shape, or form. And I agree. Like, I certainly think he was like a bad friend, and he was, you know, he was like trying to balance a lot of things, and I think that's really realistic. Is like he's starting college and he loves dance, but he also wants like and to be like an engineer. He wants to do engineering, but he doesn't know how to properly balance those both together, and he doesn't know how to communicate that to Camille, like in terms of like, here's this one thing that I love, but also I'm trying to do this at the same time. So I liked seeing the conflict. I liked that they had conflict and like the dynamic they had together, and that she ends up being supportive of him in the end, kind of deal, of him trying to do both at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I actually went with, so I just love Twitch.
That's fair.
In general, I love like the way he dances. So I just personally, as like a fan, just I love seeing him and getting to see his dance sequences. There was like I think it was one of the first dance battles they did in the movie. Twitch was kind of the main person in it, and I love to watch him dance. So I just picked him because I just enjoyed watching him dance.
That's fair.
So favorite line, I had to go with the Mary Kate and Ashley. So it was, I was born to be the Ashley to your Mary Kate, because it just I can't not pick that.
My favorite quote or line was, okay, I gotta set it up a little bit. So it's when Camille and Moose are outside on the street doing their dance, and they've just finished their dance, and there's those two little girls like with their ice cream cone walking by, and Moose is like, I feel like I gotta give up dance, I gotta focus on engineering, and Camille's like, you can't give it up. And then the little girl is walking by says, give it up, you suck. I was like, yes.
I have the same line. I loved that. I was like, yes, I love little kids belittling people. It's so great.
So good.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite scene that I picked, was just that whole like, well, no, my favorite dance sequence was the actual dance that the two of them did, but the scene was just the two little girls just giving those sass. I love it.
Yeah, my favorite dance, I really liked the dance between Moose and Camille on the street, because I feel like in a general sense, the Step Up movies didn't do a lot of like old, like different styles of dance. And I liked that there was like a lot of like dynamic things going on and a lot of different styles incorporated. And there was like a lot of movement and a lot of like use of objects and like street use and things. So I thought it was really interesting and like different from what we had seen previously. So I really liked it.
That's also an incredibly difficult scene to shoot with
Right,
all of the
'cause-
movement. Every
Right.
moving part, you have to make it work. All the background people have to be on point. Like all of the different things that are happening have to be right away. Otherwise, you got to redo the whole thing. I actually chose from my favorite scene, the last jam battle with the light up outfits. I was just like, I don't know. I feel like I just like glow in the dark things as the little kid in me. And so I really liked that sequence. But then I was thinking about the whole World Jam concept. I was like, it's World Jam, so it's people from all over. How does it happen that the two finalists are both from New York City where it's hosted? I was like, seems a little suspicious that it's people from all over the world and the two finalists are both from New York City.
Oh, wait, did we talk about how they were like, what, ninjas or something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was like, what was their name? Something
Oh.
Ninja or something like that?
I didn't
Yeah,
recognize
it was
that.
something like ninja.
Can we talk about how they just like encroached on him in the bathroom and like wanted to have a dance battle while he's trying to take a piss in a urinal? Like, I was like, what the fuck is happening?
That's my worst nightmare.
Right? Like, they just appeared in the bathroom and they're like, we're not finished yet. And I'm like, let him pee. Like, can
Yeah.
you approach him in the dance floor like a normal person? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's like sexual harassment.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I was
Jeez.
like really weirded out by that. I'm like, maybe not. Maybe we
Oh,
don't have a dance battle in a bathroom with just urinals and sinks and things. But okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get up into. Okay, so we're gonna get into Step Up 4, which is titled Step Up Revolution. It was a 2012 film, rated PG-13, and had a runtime of an hour and 46 minutes. It had a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb and a 41% in Rotten Tomatoes, 43% on Metacritic. This one also came out in 3D as well, it said.
Really? So that
I
one
didn't know
wasn't as clear. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't as blatantly 3D
No,
as
it definitely
the last
wasn't.
one was.
It had $140 million worldwide in the box office. And the review I had was from Alan Adams on Rotten Tomatoes. It says, there are only so many times you can watch the plunky dance crew try and save the rec center.
Fair.
That's fair. Um,
So this one is a little weird because I actually watched this one first.
okay.
I watched it with someone else. Since it was on Netflix, this is the only one that was available on Netflix for us. Otherwise, we rented them from YouTube. And it's been a really long time since I've seen it. But then like I watched 5 yesterday and I was like, oh wait, these are all the characters from 4 essentially in 5. This is not a good movie. This is like the leads feel like very strongly like knockoff Channing Tatum and knockoff Jenna Dewan. It's just all knockoff. Like everything about this movie feels like a knockoff of another character, and it certainly feels like a repeat of the third movie. In ways. It feels like a repeat of the second movie. It feels like a repeat of the first movie. And I don't like either lead.
Yeah.
So you know what? Who I do like though? Sandy Cohen.
Yes, I was like, I could not see him as Sandy Cohen.
OC Dad. I was like, I approve of this. That's about it.
I mean, okay, so when I started watching it, my first thought was like, it's Miami. It's like a cool setting, but I still have very low expectations. And then I saw the male lead and I was like, told Corey, I was like, I know I've seen this guy before. And I was like, but I don't know where. And I was like, I feel like he was in Pretty Little Liars. And so then I looked him up. He was Arya's karate teacher / fling named Jake for 9 episodes in 2013 and 2014. And I was like, I knew him from somewhere. He was in Pretty Little Liars.
That's right. You know what? I also was thinking he looked familiar, but I'm like, he also is just like a generic pretty white boy. So like he could be anyone, right? But that makes, yeah, he certainly was in Pretty Little Liars.
This was a repeat of the first movie. Like it was the same storyline, was it not? I mean, it was just a worse done first movie, I think. And I think they definitely were going for sex appeal this movie. The camera angles, the scenes they had was definitely really tailored. I mean, it was 2012. It makes sense. But it was the first movie where I really just felt like they were really just going all out for that sex appeal. I don't know. Like the storyline wasn't interesting. I didn't really care in the way I felt like I should have. And I agree with you. I don't think the leads were strong.
To bring it back to with what you were saying with the first movie, Tara, is that this movie takes place in Miami and like, which has a huge like Cuban and like Hispanic, population, and both the leads are again white. So just like that seemed weird to me, because it seemed like they tried to really incorporate a lot of like the dance style and types like of dance and music that are common like in that area. And I just thought that was interesting. And also because dance, like that type of dance tends to be more sexual, like from a non-dancing standpoint, like people would see that as more like of a sexual type of dance when like, it's inherently isn't, but like, cause like I used to dance when I was younger. So like, I don't really, it's just all dance to me, but like I can see that from like a general standpoint, like that would come across as more inherently sexual than other forms of dance. But I just thought it was very interesting that we didn't really get any characters that like were actually like from that culture, right? It seemed interesting to parallel, and this was 6 years after the first movie. So
yeah, I wrote a comment that said another white guy is the lead, even in Miami, ...
Yeah, I mean, I think the acting in this one was the worst of the whole entire franchise, especially the mains. Again, a missed opportunity with the main cast to actually be representative of the culture they were trying to portray. There were a couple dance sequences that I thought were done well, but the plot, I mean, if we're being honest, I was watching this last night. The night before I fell asleep. Like 20 minutes in, I fell asleep and I had to watch it the next day. It just wasn't interesting. I mean, again, we're going with the storyline of the dad who disapproves of the daughter's dreams, and somehow at the end of the movie, he's okay with it because he watched a dance sequence. And I'm like, is that really all it would take for him to change his mind? I don't know. It's not original. It's been done 100 times, and it wasn't compelling enough for me to be interested in it.
The fact that he like touches her leg like in front of her dad, like basically feels her up. I was like, oh my God, that was scandalous. I thought that was great though. I loved it. I was like, this is great. It's actually something interesting, you know. Again, this is another one where like they're like getting arrested. You know, the police are trying to take down like a dance crew for dancing in public. I guess they do kind of infiltrate like art exhibits or something, you know. This one wasn't, the plot was not original in the slightest, and the leads weren't good, and we only got Moose for like 5 minutes in this movie, as well as some other like brief cameos at the very end. So it just like wasn't compelling enough. The story itself and the dance itself just like what didn't lead to anything interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote the girl is not compelling, or she's not a sympathetic character. I was like, are we supposed to feel bad for the rich white girl who wants to drop out of college to go dance? And I was like, why not go to a fine art school, get a degree, and you can still like do your major and do whatever, and you can still dance. And you could literally you have so much money that you could literally do both, and you could do everything you want. So I was like, I don't feel bad for her in any way. And I don't see how she's a sympathetic character. I don't see how we're supposed to like, I just didn't like, there was no real conflict for her. I was like, your father doesn't agree with what you want to do. A lot of people's parents don't want to, don't agree with their people's life choices, sadly, but you have so much money that you could literally you could appease your father and still do everything you want to do at the same time. I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah. So Emily, her name was Emily. Alyssa said last
Right, okay.
movie.
They're just so generic that I couldn't remember who's who.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, she wasn't compelling, and it's a storyline that's been done over and over again. It's hard to feel bad for her, but I don't know. Were we supposed to feel bad for her? Like, I don't know.
I don't
like
know.
I don't know. Like, I was really confused. The end scene, there was the guy goes up to the like police officers who were actually part of the dance crew. Were we supposed to know who the guy was who was playing like one of the police officers, because they kept showing his face, and he ends up in the next movie, but was he introduced earlier on? I don't remember him.
Which guy?
He had like a buzz cut.
He was in the third movie.
Okay.
There were several cameos in that end scene. Because there's the one, I can't remember her name, who's from the second and the third movie.
She shows up in the fifth movie, right? She's the one who brings the food truck.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember what her name is.
I think it was setting it up for the fifth movie with the end.
Or I think that gave them the idea to do the fifth movie, honestly. Because the fourth one, they went for a whole new cast, but then like still had a little cameos of a few people at the end. And then the fifth movie became let's bring back a bunch of people together and meld them together and do that. So
I actually kind of like, though, that Emily didn't end up getting into the dance company at the end there. Like, she does the audition, and it's not the audition she was supposed to do, because I think she was supposed to do it with I don't even know what his name is. Sean. I kind of like that she doesn't get that happy ending necessarily. I mean, she technically does, because she gets to make out with him at the end of the movie in front of her dad.
This is
all
true.
our dreams.
This is true.
But I get what they were going for with this movie, but I don't think it was executed well in any format. I think a couple of the dance sequences did work. I did like, so I think the name was The Mob. That was the name of their crew. And their whole thing was basically trying to get YouTube hits, which 2012, like, it makes sense for the times, because YouTube was very popular. People were trying to get as many views as they could. But minus the couple dance sequences that I did enjoy, it just wasn't compelling enough for me to sit there and want to watch it. I wouldn't watch it again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either. It was entertaining, because it was made entertaining by the fact that who I was watching with, we were making fun of certain elements of the movie. Yeah. So like that was fun, but it certainly is not a movie I would willingly watch again.
Right. I agree. Do you guys have any more notes before, or just want to go into favorites?
I have one more note.
Okay.
So I said when I was watching all the the flash mobs. I said this reminded me of when your guys' mom got stuck in one or was about to be one in when she went out to vacation with like the girls trip.
Oh my god.
Was she
I,
actually in one?
No, I wish they would have though. I wish they would have filmed it, and I wish they would have done it.
So she basically went out to like Traverse City for like a girls' weekend, and they were planning on doing one. They had rehearsed it and all that stuff, and they didn't end up doing it. But I was like, can you imagine JT just showing up in like a flash mob? Like I would have loved it.
Imagine it's a bunch of 50-year-old women that know each other from high school, and they were gonna do it at like a brewery, like at a bar. They were just gonna do a flash mob just in Traverse City for fun. And I'm like imagining our mom doing that.
I think we were all saved.
No, she would have been a YouTube sensation.
But I wish I would have seen it because that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Opportunity lost.
I know.
So if we're being honest, I didn't actually write down a favorite line from this movie. I didn't have anything that really struck me.
I didn't either.
I wrote one, and I think it was when Sean was like on the boat with Emily, and he was like talking about him and his best friend like hanging out at Ricky's bar when they were kids, and he just said, "These little kids just wilding out." And Corey and I were just like, "What?"
Yeah.
We were like, "What? What is
what?
that?
What
Who
does
says
that mean?"
that?" I was like, "That's uncomfortable."
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. I guess character, I didn't even really know for character, because if we're being honest, like at times I liked Emily's character, but I didn't feel anything for her. I just went again with Twitch because I just love Twitch.
Yeah, also Twitch just like was in this movie, like casually. Like he just joined this troupe. You know?
It didn't really even explain it. Also, he was like, yeah, he was in this crew in New York, and then they were like, he joined us, and I was like, okay, like sure.
Yeah, he's just there. And I was like, oh, okay. Like normally they like would the rest of them in previous movies, they cameoed them. So I thought it was interesting. I didn't really have like a favorite character. I was like, I guess off-brand Channing Tatum's okay. You know, Sean, right? Sean. I was like, he's okay, I guess, because I didn't care about Emily at all. Or just Sandy Cohen, you know, even though he wasn't a main character. The friend I didn't like. Oh, yeah. And none of the side characters really were interesting to me.
Yeah.
I guess Moose. I liked the cameo of Moose. Always great. Even the end like dance number, there were only specific parts of it I liked because it went on for so long. Like it was like 6 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite character was Sean, simply because he was hot, and that was because I didn't really like the development of any of the characters. So I said,
I mean, that's fair.
Pretty Little Liars guy.
We got some eye candy.
Yeah.
So favorite dance sequence, I actually went with the museum where they were dancing in the museum. I really liked the music that was playing, and I thought it was cool how they came out of like the paintings almost. They were like camouflaged into the paintings. The end sequence, when the two Sean and Emily were dancing, I wanted to like that scene more because I love the song that was playing was To Build a Home by Cinematic Orchestra. That's like one of my favorite songs, but it just wasn't really that great, I don't think. But yeah, I think the museum scene was probably my favorite.
Yeah, this movie was just like not good. Really not good. That's about all I have to say about it.
The last dance or second to last dance scene where they're doing like the whole group all over the containers and the docks, the one with the trampoline where they're like falling down the side. Every time they kept jumping up and doing their poses, I could not stop thinking about the old intro to Disney Channel movies where there's kids jumping in the air doing like ridiculous kicks, and I was like, these literally are the Disney Channel original movie intros.
Let's watch a Disney Channel movie.
We're gonna watch a Disney Channel movie. Let's watch a Disney Channel movie. Yeah.
That was our childhood in a nutshell.
Yes. We watched a lot of Disney Channel movies.
We did.
Yes.
A lot.
All right. So we'll go into the fifth movie. It's Step Up. It's called All In. It came out in 2014. It was rated PG-13 and had a runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes. Rotten Tomato scores was 42%. It has Cinema Score B+, and it grossed $86 million worldwide, which was actually the lowest of the franchise. So review I got off of Rotten Tomatoes, it was with slick choreography, all too often interrupted by feeble attempts at a plot. Step Up All In would be more fun without all of its dialogue edited out.
So I actually liked this movie more than I thought I was going to. And I think it's because they brought together, I mean, we could have done without Sean being the lead again. I mean, you could have picked any other lead and maybe that would have been better, other than Luke. I think Sean's the second worst protagonist. But I thought certain elements of it actually kind of worked pretty well in ways.
It was sort of like an all-star cast, so to speak. Like they brought people back from the franchise. I actually think like Andy really shone in this movie compared to she was in the second movie, right?
Yeah, she was the lead of the second movie.
They went into a lot of her background. I think it actually worked, and I think her and Sean had a lot more chemistry than him and Emily.
Yes.
I think the chemistry worked better between the two of them. I actually agree though. I thought this was kind of going to be like one of those like throwaway movies just because it's like, I don't know. I feel like this movie was really meant for the fans. Like people who were really big fans of this franchise probably love this movie because it was all those favorite characters coming back and the dance sequences were pretty cool. And I think the plot worked better than some of the other plots worked. Like it did work in a way that I didn't think it wouldn't, but it was interesting for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was going to be like the worst movie, but I actually was like, oh, this is not terrible. Considering I watched the other four, right. I watched them over the course of a couple of weeks. I was like, when I watched them in order, so I was really expecting it to continue to go downhill, but I was like, oh, it was okay. I think Andy coming back and actually being a real life person instead of like a 2D character really. Hannah's dying in the background.
She is dying in the background.
I read a note I wrote, but go ahead.
Okay. I think that Andy really helps bring this, like the quality of this movie up. And I think her chemistry with Sean is better than her chemistry with what's his name, Chase. And then also Sean's chemistry with Emily. So I think those two characters came up to be better in this movie than they were in their other movies by themselves.
Yeah, it was interesting because we mentioned like the second movie, we wanted to learn more about Andy, and you learn like she talks about how she blew her knee out basically after some point between the second movie and this movie. And she's like fearful of trying to do the final move they're trying to do because she doesn't want to, re-injure herself. But you do get some background on her. And I don't know, I thought it was interesting. The one thing I hated though was the salsa dancer guy. He was so creepy. He was so predatory.
I hated him so much. I hated that he got the girl in the end. That pissed me off because he's the whole movie. You've got him being all gross and like, saying things and like getting up in her business and her clearly not interested. And then by the end of the movie, she's like, oh, just kidding. I'm going to kiss you. And I'm like, okay, like, great. That's not really the message that we should be sending people out, is that people who do that, like, get rewarded, right? Like, I didn't like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't like that message. Even to like, I feel like younger men get that message that when there's some romantic comedies and stuff where it's like almost stalking the girl, like going to her workplace and stuff like that, and it's seen as romantic. And I don't like the message that sends. But besides that, I mean, I thought the dance sequences were actually really good in this. The final dance sequence was pretty cool, but there was a couple smaller dance sequences that I actually really enjoyed a lot. And I thought the thing I was laughing about was there was a guy who was holding one of those like hurricane drinks, like the big slushies. And it reminded me of when we went to that Red Wings game. And this lady, so we were sitting in the stands and this lady had just come down the stairs with like one of those big like hurricane slushy drinks, like alcoholic drinks. And she literally hadn't taken a sip of it. The guy next to her cheered because the Red Wings scored a goal. He threw his hands up, hit the lady's drink, and flew in her face and got all over her. She was like drenched in this drink. And then the cameras on the like during the commercial break, the cameras were like panning the audience and they showed this lady just drenched in this drink. And she was like trying to like play it off like cool. But
I think didn't he buy her a new one?
Yeah, I think
he
did.
New drink. I think he did.
That's off topic. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This movie was okay for me. I wasn't mad about it.
I also liked that they brought up the concept with Andy because they brought up Chase, like clearly, that they had been in a relationship. And I liked the fact that they were like, dance was always more important to him than she was. because that's kind of like becomes a theme throughout the movie. She's always like, this is for fun for me. Sean like clearly was so focused on like dance and getting them to this thing that they weren't like enjoying it, you know? So I liked that they brought in other aspects and made Andy a more relatable and more enjoyable character to watch. Like I really liked her, and I liked like their kind of rivalry in the beginning, and then, you know, becomes into romance kind of deal. So I liked that we got to get her back to give her a better story.
Yeah, there were a couple things in this movie that didn't fully make sense to me. So I was questioning, how are there so many different characters from all these different cities that all end up at LA in the same time conveniently? Like, that seems a little sus. And then I was also like, so all these people who are just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to this dance competition from like New York and Baltimore and Miami, they're all just like, fuck my life, fuck my job, fuck my family. I'm just gonna up and move to LA or Vegas for like, because people could just do that, just quit your job. Like they showed some people just like throwing up their aprons, walking out of their job to go to this competition where they could win like a 3-year like dance whatever position, but they also might not, and then you lost your job. Was it worth it?
Right. I didn't understand how Moose, because he talked to his boss about being able to leave early, but then all of a sudden they were in Vegas. So I was like, did he just get an okay to leave for like weeks at a time? I don't understand. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Like, there are certain parts of this movie that I feel like with a Step Up franchise, you have to understand that the main focus of the movies is not necessarily the story or the plot. It's the dance. It's the sequences. Yeah. And so for me, I was trying to like keep that in my head, even though like the fourth movie, I was so frustrated the entire movie. But you kind of have to remember that it's not necessarily about a storyline, which sounds bad. It's about dance. So I think for people who were like mega fans of this franchise, I could see them like loving this movie because you got all these characters from the past movies who were probably fan favorites, and you got to see them all together at once. The thing I thought was a little bit weird was like the mob. They were like mad that Sean didn't call them, but I was like, you didn't ask him either if he wanted to be in it. So why are you mad at him?
That aspect was a little weird. I was really confused because, again, like I said, I watched the fourth movie first. So when I got to the fifth movie I watched last, I was like, oh wait, this is the entire cast from the fourth movie, like at the very beginning. And I was like, oh, so it was weird to me that was like a main conflict. Like they were like, let's take the entire cast of the fourth movie and make that be a big conflict of this movie. You know, like him and his best friend having beef and working out. And I also like weirdly kind of liked the like woman who was like
the host.
Yes, the host.
Alexa Brava.
It was very like Hunger Games-esque.
It was very Hunger Games.
She looked like she belonged in the capital of the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
It reminded me of Caesar, right? That's his name from the Hunger Games.
Caesar Flickman,
I got really Hunger Games vibes, but yeah, that whole thing was interesting. I don't know. It was like I was watching this movie and I was like at times I was like, I hate this, but also I loved it at times. So I was like, I felt so conflicted.
I agree. There's that one scene where she's like talking to the one main dancer of the like whatever crew that was like rigged to win the competition.
Grim Night.
The Grim Night, yes. And they were like, it was like really weird and like
on the couch. On the open of the hotel instead of in a hotel room.
Yeah. And I'm like, why are you talking out in the open? Also, they're like weirdly making out and like and I'm like, what is happening here? It was just like, I was like, what is happening? And then like there was like the music video and it was like, look, he's in it in like a thong. And I'm like, what is like there were certain elements that I like thought I actually like enjoyed, and then other things I'm like, why am I watching this?
Yeah,
like there was the bit in the one dance where he like tried to pick her up and she was like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, oh, this is so uncomfortable. It's like, why would you do this? Like, oh, yeah, I hated it so much. But
I agree. Yeah. Do you guys have any more thoughts before we get into favorites?
Nope.
Okay. So I think favorite character for me was Andy.
I agree.
I would agree as well. I just want to give a special shout out. I really liked Moose's grandparents. I thought they were really compelling side characters. Like I really liked them. I enjoyed all the scenes that they were in. But I agree that I think Andy, I think Andy like got her time to shine. Because I don't think she got enough in her like the movie that was hers, but I liked like all the stuff they gave her in this movie.
I actually think it's interesting because I think if I look at the whole franchise as a whole, Andy would probably be maybe my favorite character or top 3 for sure.
Mhm.
If I had just seen her in the second movie, I wouldn't have put her in there. But getting to see some of her background really like changed my opinion on things. But favorite, so I don't think I did a favorite scene, but I did a favorite line. It was Sean. He was talking. He said, "I live in a freaking little storage closet." And I was like, "Is he Harry Potter? Like, what is going on?" And his voice cracked when he said it. I was like, "Oh my god."
His acting was not good in that
No,
movie.
he's not a good
it was
actor.
It was pretty bad. I know what scene you're talking about, and I like was like, oh, that's pretty cringy. Like just the
Yeah.
acting.
It's
Yeah.
clear why they chose him.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
not for his acting.
No.
He could have been a terrible dancer, and they could have just chosen him for sex
certainly
appeal.
was not for his acting.
That's all they
He
needed.
just the eye candy. He was there
Yep.
for eye candy. So I thought it was interesting that in the 5th and the 3rd movie they dropped the F-bomb. They gave a fuck.
Yeah.
It was interesting to me how they decided to use it, where they're like, let's bring down the fucking house or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, the other movie they wasted it. Like some guy was just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, like that's how you're using it, like in a throw. Like if you only get one, right? Like PG-13 movies, I think you get like
Right.
1 or 2. I'm like, why would you use it on like a throwaway line? So I'm like, at least in this one, they like made it a little bit more, used. But actually, I didn't write down the actual line, but I thought it was interesting. Where Moose is dancing in the bar and ends up the bachelorette lady kisses him in front of Camille. Of course, conveniently, she's there right when it happens. And I'm like, oh no, movie magic. But I liked that she was like, I was jealous of you and the fact that you like looked so happy and you're not like, you are not that happy like with the life you have right now.
Right.
And I really liked that she was like, I can acknowledge the fact that like I was upset to see you that happy, like just dancing and doing your thing. And like, so I really liked that. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My favorite line is like, so when the crew finds out about the Grim Knight guy being her backup, Alexa's backup dancer, someone in the crew was like, he was her backup dancer. Now he's her private dancer.
Yes,
It was
yes.
the
I loved
the
it.
twins.
Well, yeah, it was one of the
yeah,
twins.
One of the
Yep.
twins. Yeah.
Yes. The Argentinian twins, right?
Yeah.
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 Right. So favorite dance sequence, I actually went with the it was like a fair scene. They were at a they were on like a, what is it, like the spinny
Tilt-a-whirl or teacup, something.
I actually I love that dance sequence. It might have been one of my favorite dance sequences of the entire franchise, if we're being honest. Like it was so simplistic, but it was done so well. And I mean, clearly they're both good dancers. I mean, their acting skills, specifically Sean's, leave a little bit
To be desired.
right.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Right. But I think in terms of like the dance sequence, like I loved it. It was so simplistic, but it worked so well, I thought.
I picked the same scene. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was weird that they went to this abandoned fair and it was kind of creepy, but there was a guy working the machine, like the ride, but there's no one else there. But I liked, so ignoring the creepy, weird parts of that, I liked the dance that they did because it was like movement, because the ride was moving and there was like horizontal and vertical movement, which I think makes for a nice aesthetic.
Yeah.
I agree.
I thought it was interesting as well.
Was that your favorite sequence?
Dance sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. And I also did like the like end bit where like they had all like the fire and different elements coming together. I will tell you, I really hated their submission video. I did not like that dance. Like
Did
where
you
they were like
not?
the mad scientists video.
Oh,
I kind of liked it.
I just like, I don't know, I wasn't into it. Like it wasn't working for me. Specifically that one I just didn't like. I don't know why.
It seemed highly improbable and dangerous to do that in a lab, but like otherwise it was kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe that's why, I don't know. I just like wasn't into that one specifically, but I did like I liked the amusement park ride one, and I also really liked the end one. I like the sand. I was like, this is the new water, is the sand.
Yeah,
Kind
that
of
was
deal on the
cool.
fire and stuff.
I agree, that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think if we're good with that, I think we should just kind of rank what we thought the order of
Okay.
the movies were. So we'll just each go kind of round robin.
That works for me.
So
And we
I'll
just so Tara's aware. I mean, you've also listened to our episodes as well, but we
Mhm.
start from the end, go to the top. Yeah.
Yes. Worst
I'm
to
a
best.
super
Easy reminder.
fan. I'm a
Yes.
super
I was like, I
fan.
know
I
you're
know
a
the
super fan,
drill.
but just to be clear, like that's the way we're doing it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think since Tara's the guest, why don't you start with your
Okay,
worst?
yeah.
What you think was the worst of the
That
franchise?
sounds good.
I'm honored to start. Okay. My worst, my fifth place, I said Step Up 3 3D. It was just terrible. I didn't like anything about it. I didn't really like either of the main characters. And I didn't like the 3D aspects. The Slurpee thing made me want to throw up. So yeah, I just didn't like it.
Alyssa, why don't you go?
So I put Step Up 4 as my least favorite movie. I don't know if it's because I watched it first, out of order. Otherwise, I watched 1 through 5 in order, just 4, just because I watched it with someone else, so it ended up being out of order. But the two main leads were so uncompelling, and there wasn't enough story to keep me interested in that movie. There just like wasn't anything for me that like I actually was like into.
Yeah, that's fair. I went with Step Up 4 as well as number 5. I agree with you. I just think the storyline was just it's been overdone. I've seen it before. I don't need to see it again. It was basically a repeat of the first movie, but worse. So I agree with you. I did Step Up 4 last.
Okay, so my fourth place, my second to last place, this might be controversial. I did Step Up 2. So it's set in Baltimore. It's at MSA. It's basically the first movie, but worse characters, even less plot. And just like, I felt like it was a knockoff of the first. And I didn't like it for that reason.
That's fair. For number 4, I did Step Up 3D. I have a huge problem with the fact that this movie was filmed for 3D, because clearly nobody's gonna fucking watch this movie in 3D. Like no, like 3D like 3D TVs, they don't exist anymore. That was like a hot thing for a hot minute. Nobody has a 3D TV. Like that's not a real thing. The only way people are gonna be watching this movie is in 2D, probably rented on YouTube like we did. And it does not work. The camera angles don't work. It doesn't benefit the dances. It doesn't benefit the scenes. There are very few things from this movie that I actually enjoy. So I think it gets 4th because of that.
Yeah, I did 4th. I did Step Up 3 as well. Pretty much exactly what you said. I was actually funny because I was like, do we have 3D glasses somewhere in the house that I can wear and watch this movie? Because you kept 3D glasses after you'd watch a movie. Like
it wouldn't show up in 3D though. Okay. Because on YouTube it's not going to show up in 3D.
Right, but yeah, I agree.
But yes.
It just like the main characters really it drug it down. The side characters were better in this movie. I agree.
Okay, so my third place, I did Step Up 4. So it was like Miami is cool, like a change of pace from the Baltimore and New York scene, but I didn't feel like it had a whole lot. I felt like there's an opportunity for multiculturalism, and there was a little bit in the supporting cast, but still was again white leads. So I was like, well, the hot guy from Pretty Little Liars is there, so that like he was hotter and better like to deal with than Chase, and Channing Tatum's fine, but I was like, he's better than Chase, and I was like, well, or the other guy, the guy in 3, I don't even know who the guy in 3 was.
Luke, some guy.
Yeah, I was like,
some guy.
Luke, yeah.
I was like, this is at least a little bit better because it's in a better setting and slightly less appalling person to look at on screen.
Fair. So for number 3, I did Step Up 5 All In. And I put it here because I think that it is better than 3 and 4. I think it improves on certain characters and elevates them, but there still were certain elements that I really didn't like, that I thought were done better in the first 2 movies, specifically in the soundtrack. I don't think the soundtrack in the 5th movie was anything special at all. Like just like there was a lot wrong with it in a general sense, and the choreography was good, but like there are certain, I guess there's certain elements I think worked better in the first two movies for me, specifically.
I agree. So for number 3, I did Step Up 2. I think a lot of it had to do with specifically Andy's character. And
Mhm.
I think that if she had gotten the sort of development in the 5th one that she had gotten in the second, I would have liked the movie a lot more. But the main guy, what was his name? I don't even know. She's the man.
Chase.
He's not compelling. I don't care about him. Like, we can forget about him. But yeah, I think the fact that she didn't get enough development, Andy, in Step Up 2 is the reason why I ranked it below Step Up 5.
Okay. So my second place movie is Step Up 5, All In. I thought it was actually like, I was pleasantly surprised. I really thought going into watching this movie, because I watched them in order, and after watching 3 and 4 especially, but also like 2, I just didn't feel, I was very underwhelmed by those. So seeing Step Up 5, I was like, oh, this is actually a lot better than the previous few movies that I've seen. And I really liked Andy coming out and actually being a realistic and relatable character. So I think she really brought the whole level of Step Up 5 up quite a bit. So that's why I chose it.
So for number 2, I did Step Up 2, and I certainly agree that Andy is better in the 5th movie, and the leads are better, but the soundtrack and the choreography are so good in the second movie, like I think are the best of the franchise, that I think for me, because this is a dance focused movie, I feel like that those aspects specifically elevated it for me. I certainly agree that the two leads are not the best, and like Andy specifically gets better in the 5th movie. But I can look past that and like look at it from a dance standpoint. I think it is elevated because of that for me.
Yeah, number 2, I went with Step Up 5. I think it's just because all the characters, you kind of see the hold on, realisticity
Oh,
of those characters. Like,
I
you
don't think
see,
that's a word.
okay, fine. You see the most
Realistic. They're realistic. Realistic. I don't know. What do you want? What
I
word
don't
do you
think
want?
those are words.
Okay, you see the most realistic characteristics of those characters.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes,
I mean, it
that's
was
correct.
runny. It was a runny word on sentence, but sure. Okay.
Okay.
Those are real words.
Because you see Moose, who's seemingly like those kind of perfect character, you see him be human and make a mistake, and you see Andy kind of show her vulnerable side, and I love to see that. And I think Step Up 5, I think because it was the last movie, it was meant for the fans to just really be that moment where they got to watch their favorite characters, and that's why I loved it, because I thought, the dance sequences were well done, but I thought the development of the characters was maybe one of the best movies they had done.
Yeah. So for first place, I chose Step Up 1, which I think the first Step Up, I think we all chose that just because I called it an original-ish idea, because obviously there have been lots of dance movies. And I think you said the director for this one had also directed Save the Last Dance.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, it's a different version, but it's also like white girl steals the show somehow in a genre that is like dominated by African Americans, where it's like the one thing that white people haven't totally stolen away from African Americans, except we kind of have. Like, it's a very appropriated genre.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. So I just felt like it was original-ish in that sense, where I'm like, it's not totally original idea, but it was the most original of the 5 in this franchise, obviously, because it's the first. And I actually felt of all of them, it had the best plot and storyline. I also really like the music. I do think that the first 2 movies have the best soundtrack for sure. And I don't know, I just felt like watching the first one, I was more invested in the characters, even like a lot of the side characters. And I can watch the first Step Up. So I made you guys watch it many times with me in our youth, for sure.
Oh, certainly.
It's so great. Whereas I'd only seen Step Up 2 once before watching it this time. And then I'd not seen 3, 4, and 5 ever.
Mm-hmm.
Step Up, like the original, just has, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of nostalgia, but I do think the acting is a little bit better too. And it's just it's more enjoyable to watch than any of the other ones.
Yeah, I also put the original Step Up as my number one choice, and I agree with a lot of the same things that you said. I think the story is more almost like realistic in a way, because you become more invested in the characters, and like that's the only movie where a character dies. Like nothing significant happens in the characters' lives that's unrelated to dance, I will say. Other than the original Step Up, because all the other movies are very focused on the elements of dance, and this one takes into effect more things. Like you look into more aspects like of people's lives that you don't in the other movies. So I liked like the character aspect of the first movie, and I certainly think that the leads are both very compelling. I like both the leads a lot. I like a lot of the side characters, and I like the story that's being told. And certainly I'm sure a lot of it's nostalgia because, you know, it's a movie I've seen tons of times and I watched, you know, when I was relatively younger. But there's a lot like of interesting things that can keep you coming back and watching it again and again.
Yeah, no, I agree with what both of you are saying. I mean, you know, in terms of a cast, in terms of actors and actresses, these are people who actually appear in a lot of other movies and things. And when you get later on in the franchise, I don't know a lot of the actors and actresses who are the leads. Minus like one or two movies, you know, the one guy being in And She's the Man. But you get people who are well respected and known in Hollywood. And so I think that definitely puts it a step above, but step above.
Step up.
Step above.
I agree though. I mean, it's hard when you've seen a movie so many times compared to I think I had seen part of Step Up 2. I hadn't seen any of these other movies. So it's hard to be subjective when you've seen one movie so many times as compared to a first watch for a lot of these movies. And maybe if I had seen these movies a couple times, my opinions would change. But I think in terms of just nostalgia and just being a good storyline, in terms of, I think this is the best done storyline, where a lot of the other movies, they rely so heavily on the dance sequences. I would say Step Up actually probably has some of the less underwhelming dance sequences in terms of like how big they go, maybe because of a budget standpoint. But I think in terms of like a story mixing with the dancing, this is where it's at its best.
Well said. I agree with both of you.
Yeah, so that's Step Up.
Doesn't matter what we've been through. You step
Step
up,
up,
I'll step up too.
Yes. That was stuck in my head all day, actually.
It's been stuck in my head. Yeah.
No matter what we go through, you step up, I'll step up too. It don't matter what the haters say as long as you are my boo.
But yeah, I mean, this I don't know, it was fun. It was fun to have. It was interesting to have someone else like on the podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're so used to just me and you going back and forth.
Right.
And so to have a third person, it's interesting to get another perspective.
Right.
I feel like me and you are pretty similar because
you guys are basically the same person.
Yeah, because we grew up together.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Yes.
Right. And it's not like we saw you a lot growing up too, Tara. Like it's not like we didn't, but it's interesting to get a different perspective and to kind of see it from a different angle. Like
no, Hannah, Tara's a complete stranger to us.
Yeah, I just met you a couple hours ago.
She just crashed our Zoom session. We don't know who she is.
I've literally never met you guys before.
Obviously, thank you for coming on the podcast, agreeing to do this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
And we'll post your like social media links and your tutoring business and all that.
Yes.
If anyone wants to send us their favorite Step Up movie, we do have an email and a Instagram and Twitter you can reach us at. Yeah, I mean,
if you want to view the Slurpee scene and get back to us on what a ridiculous thing it was, please do, because like I can't even begin to describe like what I witnessed. It was a scene. Certainly was a scene.
So uncomfortable.
So horrifying.
I just like, I don't even know.
But yeah, I mean, thank you for listening. I don't know why people listen to us, to be honest. Like every time we see like an international, like a person from a different state, we're like, why? Why is anyone spending their time doing this? But we appreciate it, definitely.
Certainly.
Yeah.
But I remain your super fan.
Yes.
I'm proud
Oh
of
yes,
it.
you were
I need
one
to
of
make,
our
like a
like.
t-shirt. or
You were one
something.
of our 2 super fans.
Yeah.
we
It's
have
like you-
two super fans.
Does the
It's
other
you-
super fan also live in my city?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
figured.
Yes. The other super fan does live in your city.
I figured as much. We have some loyalty.
She will.
We're biased.
We're trying to figure out what episode to get her on, but she will make an appearance at some point.
For
Nice.
sure.
Certainly. Yeah.
I look forward to that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, bye.
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 Aristotle Tutoring LLC on Google. Thank you.
What is
It's
that
a,
you're taking?
it's a
it
baby
on?
shot of tequila.
What is it? What is that cap?
Pudding
Is that-
shot.
It's the cap to the tequila because I already packed
my
and put
God.
on my shot glasses.
So dirty.
So I don't have all my salt is packed and my lime. Didn't have any
Oh my
limes
God.
and my hot sauce was packed. So
Okay, go ahead and take your shot.
Here's
right.
to you, Dad.
Here's to you, Dad.
oh wow.
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 Okay, that's good. Now I feel better.
All right, are you ready now?
I feel better. Yeah, I'm ready now.
Okay, I'm gonna
You
do
want
my
to clap sync?
Ready
Yeah,
and
and
super
then I'll
psyched.
start us off.
We would like to thank Joseph McDade for our intro music. He provides free music available for all kinds of creative use. The song that we used is called Sunrise Expedition, and you can find it and his other music on his website, josephmcdade.com. If you would like to reach us, you can email us at r3podcasts@gmail.com. That's R, the number 3, podcasts@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram by searching Research Rank Repeat.